Could I speak to Graham Dare, please? Hi, my name is Peter Harris, and I'm an artist making a film called Higher Powers, and I'm trying to find a clairvoyant who can contact some dead artists, because I'm a collaborative artist, and previously I've collaborated with all different types of people, like debt collectors and bank managers and people who sort of affect my life in some way. And the idea is to kind of get them on board by getting them to actually help make work. The next logical step, I thought, would be to try and contact an artist who have influenced my work, and Van Gogh, picture here, and Francis Bacon, who I was a big fan of, obviously Picasso, and Marcel Duchamp. And so I just decided to try and contact someone who maybe could contact them. And the idea of the piece is going to be called Higher Powers.
Inspiration, and it's that type of word that I'm thinking of. Energy, drawing on energy and so on. It's that type of feeling. If there can be a title that can encapsulate. What I'm seeing is a painting of the sun. But the sun's painted in a way that maybe even a child would paint it, rather than it really looking like the sun. I saw it as a what one might call a sort of rolling hill type landscape. So the landscape wasn't like a sort of flat horizon, it's on a slope, but on a sort of pleasantly shaped slope with the sun in the background, and a flower reaching up towards the sun. It's not a sunflower, by the way, it's like a sort of daffodil type flower. I'm just thinking about the symbolicness of the sun being painted as if it's painted by a child. I think Goodnight Sun, as in S-O-N, as opposed to S-U-N.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, that would encapsulate a lot of what I've said. I'm getting fidgety feeling straight away. I mean, I know with one of the early ones it's getting a slight fidgety feeling, but this is stronger. Someone who wouldn't sit still seemed to be a key element with him. I don't know whether Tom was particularly symbolic in his work, but I do feel it was key. And I do feel that he felt that time went slowly. One of those people who found that time sort of dragged on too slowly.
Are you seeing any kind of imagery or anything? Or?
Yeah, I'm sort of aware of the type of paintings he did in terms of it being pretty abstract and needing a lot of interpretation. But what I was seeing in terms of a painting was, in a way it looked a bit like an upside down table, but it had more than 4 legs. I suppose the way he was showing it was a bit like an upside down table with a lot of legs, but I don't know whether he would have been around at the time one would know what a computer chip looks like. I suppose it's symbolic of art being sort of more powerful than science. It's sort of like almost a rod that you would drill things out with, coming towards it. It's more of a filler, but I was seeing, what looked like satellite dishes or Jodrell bank type dishes. They're sort of communication dishes. So maybe a couple of those to fill up the painting, but there's a symbolic side to those as well, because obviously they're like communication, and I think that's just symbolic of what I described earlier as the symbolism of the other 2 objects. That's what he wants to communicate, and he needs something sort of powerful image in the painting to send that message out, as if he wants to send it out in a powerful way, broadcast it to the world, rather than people just sort of stand there and scratch their heads and think too much about what it means. Though you're saying about screaming and so on, it's like an emphasis on the lips and the fact that the mouth was very sensory as well. But it's interesting you say that, because obviously the way I put my hand against my mouth, or particularly my finger against my mouth, I think that's another reason for the drinking, in that he found that through the drinking you could actually open up and say things, or do things even, that you couldn't do when he was sober. I think this thing with the finger over mouth is key, sort of focusing on the mouth in the same way as he would, but actually having it, well, almost sort of kissing or caressing the forefinger. Sort of like a conservative side to him in that respect. I guess the reason I must be getting that then is that his view of that has changed now. He's moved on to the spirit world, and his view would be that it's better to have it covered up. I don't mean don't show the legs, but I mean you just don't.
Yeah, not nudity.
Yeah, don't show the genitals. Painting right into him, the finger the mouth, hand over the mouth, sort of suppressed type feeling, but sort of like a short, hockey skirt type thing, just around from the waist down to sort of just below the genitals.
Do you see colours or any particular colour?
Well, certainly the pleated skirt is getting red.
Okay.
It's not necessarily what one would normally expect from an artist, particularly someone who seems to be non-conventional, but I was getting a liking for sort of like restaurants, eating out, dining, whatever, because I was getting this sort of tendency to sort of like raise the finger of the right hand, sort of rest against the head as he's talking, and possibly just scratch the back of his neck. It's just a little mannerism that I saw an elephant head with the trunk. I saw sort of like a caption, if you like, in memory of the elephant being symbolic of memory, and the trunk being symbolic of trunk core communication and so on, and the trunk pointing towards the urinal, Jim off the old block, you copying his work and so on. So in that sense, I suppose it would be right to try and do it as a sculpture rather than a painting.